Mr. Shapiro, we have heard a lot today from our colleagues across the aisle and your fellow witnesses about the need for brands to avoid placement against or association with controversial content. And the examples that we've heard cited are truly despicable. Child sex abuse materials, terror threats, foreign propaganda, promotion and funding of criminal activity. So just to be clear, you have had personal experience being targeted by these collusive activities and these limitations of advertising. So let's clarify the Daily Wire and its associated content. Do you include any child sex abuse materials on your website?
No, we certainly do not.
Do you promote terrorist activities or ISIS videos?
No, we certainly do not, unlike some members of the Democratic Party who seem to be.
Do you promote or fundraise for criminal conduct?
We do not.
Do you share foreign propaganda?
We do not.
In fact, Mr. Shapiro, is it not true that the Daily Wire website, associated content, and social media involve none of those things and are instead a reflection of mainstream conservative ideas and thought?
That is correct.
I'd also like to discuss the concept of advertiser engagement and return on investment. Do you have any knowledge or information about the level of audience engagement with advertisers who do choose to advertise on your platforms?
Thank God we have extraordinary levels of advertiser engagement with our audiences, which is why we continue to maintain a significant ad presence despite the obstacles we've discussed today.
And if an advertiser were making a market-based decision, do you have a decision based on actual economic input and engagement with the content consumers? Do you have any information or opinion about whether that return on investment is a good one if they engage with the Daily Wire?
I'm obviously biased in this matter, but I obviously think it would be an excellent investment, and we have heard from certain advertisers that what they actually would like is some sort of cover and less public pressure on them so they can make market-based decisions.
Now, in your experience, you have actually had your own content limited or removed or censored, have you not?
We have.
Would you share with us some of the examples of content that you have had limited or censored?
Well, let's see. I had about 4,000 of them. Seriously, about 4,000 content enforcements across our various YouTube channels. We've actually had to engage in self-enforcement because the corresponding information that we're getting from social media is so poor. And so one of the things that we've had to do in the past is sort of prospectively remove material in the hopes that we will not be demonetized if we do so. Some of those matters have been, for example, describing the geography of the Philadelphia corridor, which is the border between Israel and Egypt in the Gaza Strip. That could get us demonetized. Any mention whatsoever of a man not being a woman, that will get you demonetized on YouTube, for example. And as I've mentioned, when you're demonetized, it's not merely that you're demonetized, that YouTube then has an interest in preventing the dissemination of your message. So the number of people who will actually see your particular video will be lower than if you are a monetized video. And we have example after example of this. I mentioned in my testimony that Matt Walsh, fellow host over at the Daily Wire, he was fully demonetized on YouTube for pointing out that men are not women, for example.
So is it correct to say, then, that the collusive activity by advertisers to choose to limit or choose to restrict utilizing your platforms, it has both a monetary impact and a potential impact on your ability to reach new subscribers and viewers?
That is certainly true.
Now, you touched earlier on the fact that you've obviously been able to transcend these types of barriers in your own business operation, but you touched earlier on the type of detrimental effect that this has on a new or startup company. Could you explain to us exactly how this type of conduct or this type of collusion can inhibit the ability of new companies to form or new thoughts or ideas to actually reach the American public?
Sure. So let's take a look at a startup conservative media company, and GARM decides to apply its misinformation standards, which are extraordinarily broad and subjectively defined, to that conservative startup media company. They have to be extraordinarily careful of what they say to the extent that they may not report material that they think will be detrimental to them, and we've been demonetized in the past for even pointing out something that's now become patently obvious to the American people, the mental decline of the President of the United States. If you are a startup media outlet and you are focused in on something like that, the possibility that you will then be demonetized by a social media platform based on GARM removing its advertising, using its standards, telling its advertisers not to advertise on these particular platforms, that's going to deprive you of the advertising revenue necessary to actually build your operation, get new reporters, hire new opinion writers, and then do the actual marketing on your own that you would want in order to achieve market share.
And you go all over the world and give talks and engage with everyday citizens about the issues that are of interest and concern to them. In your opinion and experience, do those issues you just touched on, are they of interest to people about, and just in general, the political discourse and things they want to hear content about today?
They certainly are of interest. And I find it a mass puzzle as to why the advertising market, if there is no sort of at least informal collusion between them, have deprived the advertising revenue from literally half the American public.
The gentlelady's time has expired without, for what purposes?